Okay, so we want to do the harnesses for the actual aircraft, but the thing is, it's just a decal, and as we know, they're very, very flat, very, very two-dimensional, doesn't really give any movement to it or anything else like that. So what we can do is we can actually pad them out to make them a little bit thicker, and then that way a little bit more posable. Now you could just use tape, there's a, or you could even, if you want to do, just trim them up here on the backing, soften them with water and place them in, okay? A nice little tip though is to do this. So this is just literally a little bit of foil, and it's bendable and you can pose it and bend it and stuff like that. So actually what we can do is we can take the decal and put it onto here, then trim around it and then use this on there. The great thing about using a foil is it's totally posable. So if you wanted to have that natural relaxed look to it, or a twist in it, things like that, it'll hold its shape instead of trying to flick back and those types of things. So all we need to do is we take a little bit of water, as always, just down on here. I think we need more. Okay, and we just pop it on. We'll just grab our brush. Okay, soak the decal just for a moment, and then what we're going to do, we're just going to transfer it onto here, and then what we do, we'll cut physically around it to save the foil. To be honest, this stuff you can buy sheets of it if you want to do, but the great thing is, and this is what this was off a bottle. Okay, you get them off a wine bottle, stuff like that, put them down, flatten them out completely, and away you go. All right, so we just let this sit there. It's just starting to come to life now. So is the other one. So obviously you don't want to use any more than you have to, so we're just going to grab these and we're going to stick them on here. This rear one, because it's two together, we're going to go. So what you want to do is rotate these as best as you can, so it's taking up as less room as it can. Okay, so all we're going to do is just going to grab this and I'm just going to drag it off to an edge. Literally just like that, because it will just be easier to trim around, and the same with this little guy as well. And we take it right to an edge, and then same thing as always, we just come along making it as close as you can, just so you don't have to trim as much off. Now again, it's on a really slippery surface, so take your time. Get the water all off, and to be honest, we've got water all over this. Let's get rid of that and onto here. And then what we'll do, literally just squish out all that water, get rid of it all, because you want it to adhere as best as you can possibly do onto here. Okay. Alright, so we'll let that dry. If you wanted to, you could use even your setting solutions. So we just pop a little bit of setting solution just on this. This is just to aid this to make sure it sticks, because again, there's nothing worse when you're trimming this and then they come off. Okay, so we'll stick that there, and then what we're going to do is literally cut all the way around these. Okay, so that way it'll be one of those where we can just literally stick it on and away we go. Okay, so again, it's a little bit tricky and it's a little bit time consuming to go round, but I think the overall effect is a lot nicer, because what happens is you've got something that's bendable, posable, you can stick one end and then just sort of gently wrap it round, and to give that better effect on there. So what I'm going to do, let that dry for around about half an hour so it's totally dry on there. Cut it out, and say you could even use scissors. That's the nice thing with this one, just trim around it with scissors and all the rest of it. Get it as close as you possibly can. All right, if you wanted to, you can paint the back as well. So if you've got a situation where you want to twist it, if you come in with a little bit of buff or a little bit of khaki, paint it on actually on the back of it. To make it a little bit easier, what you might want to do is just sand it slightly, so there's a little bit of texture if you're using metal, and it stops it beading up and doing all of those things. Another option is obviously to use oil, so you could use like we've done here. We've got a little bit of buff here. Pop that on the back of it. It's just that on the edges, if you can see the edges of it, you want them to be solid as well right the way through. There's other options for doing that as well. You can use micropore tape. Okay, that's another good one as well, and that one you can actually physically just stick it to the sticky side of the decal, then cut around it as well. So micropore tape is another great one. Unfortunately I haven't got any of that, otherwise I would have probably used that option, but this one works just as well. So anyway, let that dry, trim it up, we get that fitted, and then we get it all together. Okay, so it's been around about sort of 15 minutes and we've already started to cut some of these out. So as you can see, we've cut out the little guy just down in here, but if we show you on this one, I will need magnifiers for this. Okay, so once these are on, it's actually not so bad. So what you can do then is just snip the bottom. And again, good sharp scissors if you're using scissors. To be honest, I think scissors are always a little bit easier, just out of personal preference for these. Okay, and again, you don't have to be 100% exact with it, but you want to be roughly in the sort of ballpark. Because again, when you put a little bit of paint on these, you can clean them up and take care of any little perhaps areas you might have missed or anything else like that. Okay, but again, good old Friskies scissors. I say about good scissors, I've had these for 20 years now. Okay, so as you can see, we're cleaning these up just down this one, and this one is a lap belt which fits quite nicely into the seat, which again will give it depth. Hopefully you can see this. Okay. But as I said, the thing about using foil is that you can just use it as you like. It's not one of these areas where if you're using like the micropore tape, which I do like using, the only trouble is you need to sort of PVA glue it all in place. Okay, so there we have our belt. Okay, and we've got the other, clear the bits out of the way so we don't get a bit confused. Okay, so what we like to do here, and it's already done, we've got one in position. Okay, so all we do, we take a little bit of super glue and we're just going to place it just on the back. Okay, that's on there like that, and we've got this little guy here, and what we're going to do is just going to curl over a little bit at the back. Okay, but then we're just going to pull it out on the front, so that way it can hook over and it doesn't interfere. Hopefully, hook over. So you got enough to get it into position. He says, making a complete hash of it, but you get what I mean. Okay. That's on there. As I say, we're trying to fight against it here instead of with it. But again, if you've ever used the sets from those fine people at Edard, you know that sometimes they can crack and bend. These don't seem to do that. These tend to sort of sit here quite nicely. Let's try that again. That's better. Okay, so once you've roughly got it into position, how you sort of want it, you can just lightly maneuver it around just a little bit. Okay, and then it's in. So there we've got the two halves sticking up like that. Okay, so now what you can do is come in with some paint and run around it, but to be honest I don't think we're going to need to. So we've got this little one just down in here, so what we're going to do is we're just going to push him down, and then this one here, and again we can, if you wanted to, twist it slightly to a different angle. And again, you don't even have to glue them down, but you can probably see how nicer those look instead of it just being a decal, just being squashed straight down, because really that's just not going to work. And then this little guy here, I'm thinking the best way of doing this is we're going to fold up both sides. Okay, and I'm thinking what we'll do is we'll grab him in the middle so it will fit in the seat. Okay, so it will literally, it will be able to, make sure you can see it, it will come in and sit in like here. So then we'll put a little bit of glue on the bottom. And again, if you're a bit worried about using super glue, you can just use PVA glue, and that way you've got a little bit more walking time with it. Okay, and then we'll just stick that in like that, and then same thing, we will unfold and then bend the harnesses around like here down to the outside. So you can see what we're doing now, so we get this nice three-dimensional look right the way over this, and again we can just flip it around and go down, and there we go. How much nicer does that look than some decals which would be flat and just stuck against it? So there you go, how to do quick, simple, three-dimensional seat belts if you've got decals.